Controversial topic time. The Trump Gold Card. This audacious gambit is supposed to replace the EB-5 visa program, a simple promise made to those who buy the golden ticket to American citizenship for a cool $5 million. Think of it as like the Willy Wonka's golden ticket, but you have to buy a certain amount of chocolate bars and that amount happens to be 5 million. And you're like, what's the catch? Well, lucky for you, Trump says there are no strings attached, no jobs needed, just a direct deposit to the US Treasury. Some people are calling it brilliant and others are calling it dumb. So naturally, if I get into a conversation online about it and it has to do with economics, I want to make a video. First, we're going to dissect the old program. We're going to look over the new program, which is this golden ticket thing, and we're going to weigh out the arguments and hopefully come to a sort of conclusion whether this is A, brilliant, or B, just plain dumb. But let's go through it. So first, let us check out the EB-5 program. What was it and what impact did it have on the economy, and was it a good thing, bad thing? Let's get into that. It was originally started in the 1990s, designed to combine foreign capital with American ambition, right? So basically for around 800,000 or 1.05 million, for more desirable locations, an investor could secure a green card by funding a US company and bringing on 10 full-time jobs. So this is sort of how it works. A Chinese billionaire, let's say bankrolling a sleek Miami high-rise, or an Indian entrepreneur resurrecting a Rust Belt factory, or even a rich immigrant who just wants to get out of Dodge and, invest into the American dream. And because of this program, they're able to do so. And since its inception, EB-5 has brought in over $40 billion into the economy from building bridges, hotels, providing jobs. And what's awesome about that is that when money is entered into the local economy by providing jobs, right, what happens is the dollar is actually stretched further. And you might be wondering, what does that even mean? It basically means that when you pay an employee, that employee now can pay their bills, right? And their bills are what? Rent, groceries, gas, electricity, buy things for the house, maybe have enough money to raise a family, which then continues the economy growth, right? So that $1 spent goes a long way, right? Because he pays his rent, the landlord can pay their mortgage, right? Because he buys groceries, the local grocer can maybe pay his bills, right? So each dollar that he spends can go multiple ways, right? Multiple directions with, and we'll get into it a little bit more, but the gold ticket program is basically $5 million that goes into the pocket of who? The federal government. And it doesn't go back into the local economy. But again, we'll discuss that a little bit later. And this EB-5 program, although sounds nice, right? Like I painted the beautiful picture, let me also talk about the bad, because it's certainly not perfect, okay? So fraud, the illegal activity, fraud has certainly found its way around the system. For example, the Vermont ski resort debacle, where $200 million vanished into an 8-year-long pyramid scheme. By 2022, however, the Biden administration retooled it with the Reform and Integrity Act with stricter vetting, transparent fund trails, rendering it a more disciplined beast. And this program is basically authorized through 2027. And the question is, was this system perfect? And is it perfect? No, I don't think so at all. But we did learn from some of our mistakes, right? This ski debacle happened, and then we, made changes. And overall, it is a machine that sort of churns out jobs and infrastructure, which we need. Not just that, but people coming here on these visas can afford these visas. They, have some money, right? The $5 million one cuts off more people, but also they might build families and communities and help the local economy, right? Now, let's talk about the Trump Gold Card. So now we have this card, which was unveiled on February 25th, I believe, 2025. And it wasn't the modest, $800,000 ante like before. This is a $5 million card we're talking about. And again, it's paid directly to the Treasury. No investment required beyond the fee itself. And in a press conference, Trump was even asked if a Russian oligarch, for example, could just simply buy his way into our country. And this is what he says. Play the clip.
A Russian oligarch be eligible for a gold card?
Yeah, possibly. Hey, I know some Russian oligarchs that are very nice people. A lot of people are going to want to be in this country, and they'll be able to work and provide jobs and build companies and pay taxes.
But so what do we get in return? A green card with an expedited path to citizenship, a VIP pass, as Trump calls it. For who? For the world's elite, people who probably wouldn't qualify for the previous program. People are saying we just need to sell 1 million cards, harvest $5 trillion, and eliminate the national deficit, which, by the way, it won't eliminate the national deficit. And it sounds brilliant when it's said with a loud voice that's confident, and it's sort of marketed as this streamlined successor to the EB5, cleaner, costlier, and allegedly fraud-proof. But even Trump said it's not fraud-proof. In fact, there's like nothing requiring it besides the money. And beneath all of this lies a labyrinth of questions that I have, and you probably have as well. First, we have the question of, is it actually a deficit-dissolving elixir? Right? So here's the math. They claim 1 million cards at $5 million a piece could erase swaths of the $34 trillion national debt. It might be 35 trillion when you're watching this, I don't know. That's not enough. Trump's dream hinges on a pretty big problem, right? Globally, if you take into account all the people that exist, only around 2.3-ish million people have a net worth exceeding $5 million. And only a tiny fraction of those that would and could actually buy the card and have money left over, right? And funny enough, a third of those people, those 2.3, a third, right? Remember that, already are legal American citizens. So doesn't apply to them. And the EB5 at 1/10 of the price brings in just about 8,000 people annually. So how many people will actually get, this new card? Well, I'd bet that the number is closer to 8,000 a year. Maybe a lot more in the first year because criminals want to have that backup plan. So how many people will actually get it? I would bet that the number is closer to 8,000 a year. Maybe in the first year we get 15,000. Awesome. But then, over time it'll be less and less because, well, all the oligarchs already have citizenship. But the more interesting question is that let's say it averaged out to 8,000 people a year, just like the other program has, right? So how long would it actually take to hit that 1 million people number? Well, at that 8,000 a year rate, it would require 125 years. And that doesn't even include the fact that the cost has gone up. And this is obviously marketed to oligarchs and, people with an insane amount of wealth, even though, a pretty big majority of them are already in the United States and actually want citizenship and are not criminals, can still get it through the cheaper route, right? I don't even have a problem with the price. I actually have a more serious problem. And here are some of the actual problems, right? Because on paper, this could be a good idea, right? On paper, economic, financial aspect, if we did have that many people, in theory, could be good. But let's talk about the actual problem. So again, the old program, which had its requirements, which is what made it so successful, mandated job creation. 10 jobs per investor. That was yielding $6.1 billion in projects over 2 years, from bridges to biotech, okay? The gold card, well, it demands nothing. So the 5 million does not go into local economies and helping people have jobs or whatever, right? But the actual bloated government's pockets, which is so funny because most people that are seeing this and that are arguing for it, they're like, I don't want big government. At the same time, as that's what it's doing. And it's not fueling factories, storefronts, or, small businesses. And economists like Gary Burtless, he warns of stagnation, less growth, fewer jobs, a hollow victory, right? It feels good for a minute and then it doesn't, right? Long term. And this is, again, someone who's much smarter than probably you and I. And on top of that, the gold card safeguards are non-existent. And this is the problem I have with it. So basically, no clear vetting framework. Just a good old-fashioned handshake and a fat check. Attorney Mona Shah, a veteran of immigration law, cautions that this is a honeypot for money launderers and corrupt leaders, which is not surprising with who we have elected. Luckily for people who are worried about this, EB5 is enshrined in law until 2027. And luckily for us, the gold card is probably going to face some problems, like lawsuits from EB5 investors mid-process. On top of that, bipartisan pushback from, overselling citizenship. But what of, the economic toll? Should the gold card actually replace EB5? Well, I think the question really becomes about the gold card's proceeds. Even if they materialize, merely pad the deficit, or I should say the interest of the deficit, offering no actual economic value, just paying down interest on the debt. It's like, think about it like this, okay? It's like getting a paycheck, right? And you're like in massive credit card debt, right? You're massive credit card debt, and you get this paycheck, and then you end up paying down a Klarna DoorDash order from 3 weeks ago while ordering more DoorDash every day. It doesn't make any financial sense, even though that's what supposedly is this whole idea. It's like it's a brilliant financial decision, right? So if this money doesn't materialize, rural towns could lose future factories, right? Urban centers that were previously built by the EB5 won't build the skyscrapers that they normally would. And overall, somewhat, the GDP growth slows. Maybe not immediately, but at some point. And that is not what we want, right? This whole point is to boost our economy, not hurt it. So remember, money in local economies will move around and be used over and over, but money piling at the federal level, which we all know, especially while we can't service our debts, will continue to lose money and make our country poorer. And if it couldn't get bad enough, the other problem is that at $5 million a card, the US sort of prices itself out of the golden visa market. Again, besides criminals, remember that great countries like Portugal sells residency for $500,000. Canada's startup visa is only at $200,000, and I think an investment visa is around $500,000 or $600,000. Capital and talent typically flee to friendlier shores when something becomes more expensive. I mean, that's the whole argument with taxes, right? Don't tax the rich, they'll just move somewhere else. And what do we get from all of this? Most likely, oligarchs, spies, criminals, whatever, from other nations who can afford to get in that otherwise couldn't apply to the EB5. Trump himself said that Russian oligarchs might qualify alongside with other sanctioned billionaires, maybe even ones with Kremlin ties. And many people already agree that selling citizenship to the highest bidder is a gross and messy business, especially when we're talking about no oversight on who gets in or not. So of course, if that was on the table, maybe this conversation would change, but it doesn't seem like it. And at the end of the day, what you should be worried about is not this simple policy, because it's not just a policy shift. It's a philosophical change from a society in which people get success or power because of their abilities and merit, traded for a society that is ruled and controlled by people of great wealth and income. But maybe I missed something. I'm not a genius. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I just have done this for a while. But if I did miss something, and if there is, another point to this argument, let me know down in the comments. Let's continue the conversation there. I hope you found this valuable. Normally, I don't make videos like this. I usually make financial videos, fun videos, side hustle videos, business videos. But right now, our politics and, because we have a businessman who is in the presidential seat, politics and business have kind of intertwined, at least for the next few years. And if you enjoyed and it's your first time to the channel, please subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. And YouTube's algorithm thinks that you'll enjoy one of these two pieces of content up here as well. Thanks for watching. Peace.